This is an introduction to the well definition tab, where we are going to learn to classify the well and establish the well's datum. Hi, I'm Pete Lumley. I'm with Blade Technology, and I'm just going to run you through the well definition sub-tab, which is under the main tab, the well. Okay, so first up we have the well name. I've named this docs.stringnosis.com because that's what I've created this this file for. But here you put whatever the nickname, whatever the corporate name for your well is in here. Under the lease, I've got no lease because it's just a demonstration file, but if you've got a lease name or lease number for the area of the world that you're drilling in, and this is where you'll put the lease name. For well description, you can add details to make it easy for you to figure out exactly which well you're working on, any specifics of that well, and here I've just named it demonstration well for StringNosis documents wiki. The next we have the well direction. Currently got it as vertical, but if I was to change it to deviated, then I would need to go into the trajectory tab and enter the details there to give the well a trajectory. RKB Elevation. This is, let me just bring an image up here. This is the height of the drill floor from the ground level, the sea level, or the mudline, depending on the wellbore location and the well type. So the different types of well we have available, we have the onshore well, we have the offshore well with a platform completion, and then we have an offshore well with a subsea completion. Next, total well depth. The one thing I wanted to highlight here, and why I haven't put any data into this box here, is that you cannot save a file until you've defined a total well depth. And additionally, if you go into casing design and you're unable to add a new string, you're unable to add a new string because you haven't defined a well depth. So I'll go for total well depth. I'll just go for 10,000 feet here. And then I get to select, is it onshore or is it an offshore well? I just showed you the three options that we do have. I'll bring those up again. So this one I'm going to select offshore to show you what other options that you have available. And then with those options, you've got a few choices on what you can choose. So if we are offshore, we can enter in our water depth here. So if we come over here, this is shown the water depth. You see just below this, where my pointer is here, you've got your air gap, and then you've got your water depth. So you're defining that water depth there. And again, over on the offshore subsea completion, we've got our water depth. So this is from mean sea level down to the sea floor. That's our water depth. So let's say here we've got a water depth of 100 feet. The drilling riser ID. This is the ID of the drilling riser, and as standard it comes up as 19.5 inches. If you need to change that, then change it. Here we've got a subsea completion, and the other option that we have here is the fixed platform completion. So depending on what you put as your RKB elevation, this will change things slightly. So let's add in a 50-foot elevation in here. So I've got a 50-foot elevation now. So when we've got the fixed platform completion with an RKB elevation of 50 feet, we now have a mudline 150 feet below where the wellhead is, and that makes sense here. If you look here, we've got our air gap, and then we've got our water depth. So RKB elevation is the sum of the water depth plus this RKB elevation that we've put. So we've got our mudline down there now. If we were to select a subsea completion here, we get to select our drilling riser, and we have the same. We've got the air gap plus the water depth. It gives us the depth of our mudline. So if we need to change this, we change it either by the RKB elevation or the water depth here, and it'll always reference that point. So you cannot. So note here is this is the default datum for all of the well types. So this means that the tops of all of the case and the tiebacks and the tube and strings is assumed to be at 0 or at the mudline, depending on the well type. And the well designer can manually change the top of the string as long as the following conditions are met. So for onshore wells, the top has to be above the ground level, which makes sense. For offshore platform wells, the top has to be above mean sea level, which makes sense. You wouldn't have your wellhead below your mean sea level. And for offshore subsea wells, the top has to be above the mudline. Again, this makes sense. And we'd have to have the top datum point above that mudline depth. final few items on this left hand side here. What we have here, we have a project code. So this is the internal project code that we use for creating tutorials and document sites for blade technology. Prepared date, this is today's date. Prepared for, I've prepared it for docs.stringnosis.com, but normally I'd use this to highlight which engineer or which client that I was preparing the well file for. And prepared by, I've got my name here, Pete Lumley, and I'm with Blade Technology. So on the right hand side, when we finally get around to building our well and we have our casing design designed, this will show the well schematic. But this is the first stage and the first screen that we come to, so we don't have a well schematic yet. However, I'm going to show you the notes section. So first up, you see I've got a time and date here. So it was not that long ago, it was just under 2 hours ago I typed these things in here. How did I get this time and date in here? What you can do is you just right click. Right click is the power button in StringNosis. Right click wherever you are and you'll get a lot of different options. And I can insert date and time, or I can just press F5. So insert date and time, and it's going to insert exactly the date and time here, referencing to the date and time of the computer. And it's useful for keeping track of changes to the well file. So the things that I normally note down here, notes to my colleagues, if I want to send some information across to a colleague so that they can work on the well file, then I'll write notes here to them. Notes to clients, exactly the same as sending notes to my colleagues. I'll use this sometimes as a task tracker, so I can task items that still need to be carried out in the file, and then when I complete the tasks, I'll enter in a little X to say that that task is complete. And then at the very end of a well file, as I'm closing out a project, my archival notes will also go here, just prior to closing out a piece of work. So we don't have a schematic here, but what I can show you is if you right click, you can save as image. So I'm currently using StringNosis Online, not the desktop version, I'm using the online version. So I can save as an image, I can take that file and I can save it, and it's going to save to the server for StringNosis Online hosted by Amazon AWS AppStream. So I'll put it in my home folder and I could save that StringNosis image. I'm not going to because I don't have anything there, but I could save it and I could pull it down and use it in a report or a presentation. Okay, I think that is everything for now. So I'm gonna check out. Until next time, stay curious and keep optimizing.